The USS Invincible slipped silently through the void of space, its engines humming softly as it moved toward the edge of known territory. The mission was straightforward: scout nearby star systems for signs of Zorathian activity. But Captain Ryan Mitchell knew better than to underestimate the dangers ahead. The Zorathians were cunning and ruthless, and their retreat after the battle near Proxima Centauri had likely been a strategic withdrawal rather than a sign of defeat. On the bridge, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Lisa Carter monitored sensor arrays, her eyes scanning streams of data for anything unusual. Ensign Natalie Brooks plotted the ship's course, ensuring they avoided areas where Zorathian patrols might be lurking. Chief Engineer Daniel Hughes remained on standby in case any technical issues arose, though the newly upgraded systems seemed to be holding steady. Ryan stood at the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He watched the view screen, which displayed a sea of stars stretching endlessly into the distance. Each twinkling light represented a potential threat, or an opportunity to learn more about their enemy. Despite the tension, there was a sense of purpose among the crew. They were not just explorers. They were guardians of humanity, tasked with protecting Earth from whatever lay beyond. Hours passed without incident. The scanners picked up nothing but empty space and distant planets orbiting dead stars. Lisa leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "It's strange," she said. "No ships, no signals. It's like they vanished." Ryan frowned. "Or they're waiting for us to make a mistake." Natalie glanced at him. "Do you think they know we're here?" "They might," Ryan admitted. "But until we have proof, we keep moving. Stick to the plan." As the hours turned into days, the crew began to feel the strain of uncertainty. The vast emptiness of space weighed heavily on them, and the lack of contact with Earth only added to their isolation. Still, they pressed on, driven by duty and determination. Then, on the 5th day of the mission, something changed. Lisa's console lit up with a series of alerts. "Captain," she said, her voice tinged with urgency, "I'm detecting faint energy signatures. They're faint, but they match the profile of Zorathian technology." Ryan straightened. "Location?" "About 3 light-years ahead," Lisa replied. "They're faint enough that they could be residual emissions from past activity, or they could mean trouble." Ryan nodded. "Let's find out. Natalie, adjust our course. Take us in slowly. We don't want to announce ourselves if they're still there." "Aye, sir," Natalie responded, inputting the new coordinates. The Invincible drifted cautiously toward the source of the signal. As they approached, the sensors grew clearer. Lisa studied the readings intently. "It looks like wreckage. There's debris scattered across this sector. It matches the design of Zorathian ships." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Wreckage? What happened here?" "It's hard to say," Lisa admitted. "Could be damage from the last battle, or maybe they ran into something else out here." "Either way, it's worth investigating," Ryan decided. "Natalie, bring us closer. Lisa, scan for life signs or any active systems." The ship maneuvered carefully through the field of debris. Pieces of alien metal floated aimlessly, some scorched and twisted, others nearly intact. Lisa's fingers flew over her console as she analyzed the remains. "No life signs detected," she reported. "But I am picking up traces of power emanations from one of the larger fragments. It could be a derelict ship." Ryan considered the situation. Exploring a potentially dangerous wreck carried risks, but the potential rewards, intelligence, on Zorathian capabilities, were too valuable to ignore. "Prepare an away team," he ordered. "Lisa, you're with me. We'll take a shuttle to investigate." Lisa blinked in surprise. "You want me to go down there?" "You're the expert on their tech," Ryan reminded her. "If anyone can figure out what's going on, it's you." She nodded reluctantly. "Understood, sir." While the shuttle was prepped, Ryan gathered the rest of the team. Alongside Lisa, he included 2 security officers, Corporal Jake Harper and Private Emily Torres, to provide protection. Both were seasoned veterans who had trained extensively for close-quarters combat. They suited up in reinforced armor and armed themselves with pulse rifles before boarding the shuttle. As the small craft detached from the Invincible and headed toward the largest piece of debris, the tension aboard was palpable. The wreck loomed ahead, its jagged edges glinting ominously in the dim starlight. Up close, it was clear that the vessel had once been massive, perhaps even a command ship. Whatever had destroyed it had done so with devastating force. The shuttle docked at what appeared to be an airlock, and the team disembarked cautiously. Their boots clanged against the metal floor as they stepped inside. The interior was dark and eerily silent save for the occasional creak of shifting metal. Corporal Harper activated a handheld light, illuminating the corridor ahead. "This place gives me the creeps," Emily muttered, her rifle raised. "Stay sharp," Ryan warned. "We don't know what's waiting for us." They moved deeper, into the ship, guided by Lisa's scans. She stopped suddenly, pointing to a partially open door. "There's a concentration of energy readings coming from beyond this point. Could be a reactor or some kind of control room." Harper pried the door open, revealing a chamber filled with alien machinery. Strange symbols glowed faintly on panels, and wires snaked across the walls like veins. Lisa approached one of the consoles, her fingers hovering above the controls. "This looks promising," she said. "If I can access their logs, we might learn why this ship was abandoned or destroyed." Ryan gestured for Harper and Torres to keep watch while Lisa worked. She connected her datapad to the console, bypassing security protocols with surprising ease. Lines of alien text scrolled across her screen as she deciphered the information. "What have you got?" Ryan asked after a few minutes. Lisa's brow furrowed. "It's fragmented, but I think I understand part of it. This ship was part of a scouting fleet sent to map nearby star systems. About 6 months ago, they encountered something. The logs mention anomalies and unstable phenomena. Whatever it was, it overwhelmed them." Ryan exchanged a glance with Harper. "Anomalies? Like natural disasters?" "Possibly," Lisa said, "but there are references to hostile entities as well. It's unclear whether they were talking about another species or something else entirely." Before Ryan could respond, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered ominously. Harper spun around, his weapon aimed at the doorway. "What was that?" Torres scanned the area nervously. "Could be structural instability. This ship's been floating out here for months. It's not exactly stable." Ryan turned to Lisa. "How much longer do you need?" "I'm almost done," she replied, typing furiously. "Just a few more seconds." Another rumble shook the chamber, louder this time. A section of the wall collapsed, sending shards of metal tumbling to the floor. Harper shouted, "We need to move now!" Lisa hit a final button on her datapad. "Got it! Let's go!" The team sprinted back toward the shuttle, dodging falling debris and navigating collapsing corridors. The ship groaned around them, its structure beginning to give way. By the time they reached the airlock, the entire wreck was shaking violently. Harper and Torres hustled Lisa and Ryan onto the shuttle, then sealed the hatch behind them. As soon as everyone was strapped in, the pilot gunned the engines, pulling away from the dying hulk just as it imploded in a shower of sparks and shrapnel. Back aboard the Invincible, the crew gathered in the briefing room to review Lisa's findings. Her face was pale but determined as she projected the data onto a hollow screen. "From what I recovered, the Zorathians weren't just retreating, they were running. Something out there scared them, something they couldn't fight." Ryan folded his arms. "And now it's between us and them." Lisa nodded grimly. "Exactly." The implications were sobering. Humanity had barely survived its first encounter with the Zorathians. If there was a greater threat lurking in the darkness, the stakes would be higher than ever. Ryan looked around the table at his crew. "We came out here to gather intelligence, and we've done that. Now it's up to us to decide what to do with it. Earth needs to know what we're facing. But more importantly, we need to be ready." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed his words. They were pioneers, soldiers, and scientists, all united by a shared purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As the Invincible turned toward home, Ryan gazed out at the stars. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing up to the greatest threats. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the message was clear. Never mess with a human battleship, because the day aliens saw one and regretted everything instantly was a day they would never forget. The USS Invincible finally docked at Earth's orbital repair station, a massive structure that floated silently above the planet. Its arrival was met with cheers from workers and engineers who had been eagerly awaiting the battered battleship's return. For the crew, stepping off the ship felt surreal. They had spent weeks in the cold emptiness of space, fighting for their lives against an enemy they barely understood. Now, surrounded by familiar faces and the comforting hum of human activity, they could finally breathe. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the observation deck of the station, watching as teams swarmed over the Invincible. The ship looked like a wounded animal, its hull scorched and dented, cables hanging loose from open panels. But despite its condition, it remained a symbol of humanity's resilience, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, people could find a way to win. Lieutenant Lisa Carter joined him, carrying a data pad filled with notes and schematics. "The engineers say repairs will take months," she said, her tone matter-of-fact. "But they're already integrating some of the Zorathian tech we recovered. If everything goes well, the Invincible will come out stronger than ever." Ryan nodded. "Good. We'll need every advantage we can get." Lisa hesitated before speaking again. "Do you think the Zorathians will come back?" "They will," Ryan replied without hesitation. "Vor may be gone, but his people aren't just going to give up. This was only the beginning." Lisa frowned. "Then what do we do? How do we prepare for something like that? We keep improving," Ryan said firmly. "We learn from this battle, adapt, and grow stronger. Humanity has always thrived because of our ability to innovate. That's how we'll survive." His words seemed to reassure Lisa, though her expression remained thoughtful. She glanced down at her datapad. "I've been analyzing the data from the battle. There's so much we can use. Not just the technology, but also their tactics. If we study them carefully, we might be able to anticipate their next move." "Exactly," Ryan said. "That's why you're staying on my team. Your insights are invaluable." Lisa smiled faintly, then turned back to her work. Ryan watched her go, feeling a sense of pride in his crew. Each person aboard the Invincible had played a role in turning the tide of the battle. Together, they had achieved the impossible. In the days that followed, the crew dispersed across the station, taking much-needed breaks or helping with the repairs. Chief Engineer Daniel Hughes practically lived in the engine room, working alongside technicians to rebuild the reactor and integrate new systems. Ensign Natalie Brooks spent hours reviewing navigation logs, searching for patterns in the Zorathians' movements. Even Lieutenant Sarah Grant, the medical officer, contributed by sharing her observations about the aliens' physiology based on the few samples they had collected. Meanwhile, Admiral Laura Hayes called a meeting of Earth's top military, leaders to discuss the implications of the battle. Representatives from various nations gathered in a secure conference room aboard the station, their expressions serious. Ryan attended the meeting, seated at the far end of the table. Admiral Hayes opened the discussion. "The engagement near Proxima Centauri was a wake-up call, she said, her voice steady. For the first time in history, humanity faced an extraterrestrial threat, and not just any threat, but one capable of destroying entire planets. Thanks to Captain Mitchell and his crew, we survived. But we cannot rely on luck alone. We must prepare for future encounters. One of the representatives raised a hand. What about diplomacy? Could we negotiate peace with these Zorathians? Hayes shook her head. Based on what we've seen, diplomacy isn't an option. Their actions speak for themselves. They attacked without provocation and showed no interest in negotiation. Until proven otherwise, we must assume they view us as nothing more than obstacles to their expansion. Another representative spoke up. Then we fortify our defenses, build more ships, develop better weapons, and establish early warning systems. We need to show them that Earth is not easy prey. Ryan leaned forward. And we need to act fast. The Zorathians won't wait. They'll regroup, rebuild, and come back stronger. If we don't prepare now, we risk losing everything. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed his words. It was clear that humanity stood at a crossroads. The battle had proven that Earth was vulnerable. But it had also shown that humans were capable of standing up to even the greatest threats. After the meeting, Ryan found himself walking through the station's corridors, deep in thought. He passed groups of engineers and scientists discussing plans for new technologies, pilots practicing maneuvers in simulators, and strategists mapping out potential battle scenarios. Everywhere he looked, people were working tirelessly to ensure that humanity would never be caught off guard again. He eventually made his way to the observation deck, where Lisa was still reviewing data. She looked up as he approached. "Still working?" he asked. She nodded. "There's so much to analyze. Every piece of information could make a difference." Ryan sat beside her, gazing out at Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, its continents and oceans bathed in sunlight. It was hard to imagine that somewhere out there, an alien fleet was plotting its revenge. "You know," Ryan said after a moment, "when I joined the Defense Force, I never imagined I'd be part of something like this. Fighting aliens wasn't exactly in the job description." Lisa chuckled softly. "I guess life has a way of surprising us." "It does," Ryan agreed. "But one thing's certain. We can't let our guard down. Not now, not ever." Lisa set her datapad aside and looked at him. "Do you think we'll really be ready when they come back?" Ryan met her gaze. "We have to be. There's no other choice." Over the next several weeks, Earth transformed into a fortress. New ships rolled off assembly lines, equipped with advanced weapons and shields reverse-engineered from Zorathian technology. Early warning satellites were deployed around the solar system, designed to detect incoming threats. Training programs intensified, pushing pilots and soldiers to their limits. The crew of the Invincible played a key role in these efforts. Lisa became the lead analyst for alien tech, her expertise guiding engineers as they adapted Zorathian designs for human use. Daniel oversaw the integration of new systems into the Invincible, ensuring the ship would be ready for its next mission. Natalie worked closely with Earth's navigators, developing strategies to counter Zorathian tactics. And Ryan served as a consultant for high-level military planning, sharing lessons learned from the battle. As the repairs neared completion, Ryan stood once again on the bridge of the Invincible. The ship looked almost new, its hull gleaming, under the station's artificial lights. Systems hummed steadily, and consoles displayed streams of data. It was hard to believe this was the same vessel that had limped home barely holding together. Chief Engineer Daniel Hughes entered the bridge, grinning from ear to ear. "She's ready, Captain. Better than ever." Ryan smiled. "Good work, Chief. Let's hope she doesn't disappoint." With the Invincible fully operational, Earth's leaders decided to send it on a reconnaissance mission. Its task was simple yet critical: patrol nearby star systems and gather intelligence on Zorathian activity. If the aliens were regrouping, Humanity needed to know where and how quickly. Before departing, Ryan addressed his crew. Standing on the bridge, he looked each person in the eye. "This mission won't be easy," he said. "We're venturing into unknown territory, and we may encounter enemies far beyond anything we've faced before. But remember this: we've done the impossible once, and we can do it again. Stay sharp, stay focused, and trust in each other. Together, we'll protect Earth." The crew erupted into applause, their spirits high despite the dangers ahead. As the Invincible undocked from the station and headed toward the stars, Ryan felt a mix of pride and determination. Humanity had taken its first steps into the interstellar arena, and though the journey would be fraught with challenges, he knew one thing for certain: the galaxy now understood that humans were not to be underestimated. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the surviving Zorathians whispered warnings to others. Never underestimate humanity, because the day aliens saw a human battleship and regretted everything instantly was a day they would never forget. The aftermath of the battle left the USS Invincible battered and bruised, its once gleaming hull scorched and pitted from countless plasma strikes. Smoke filled the corridors, and emergency lights flickered as the crew worked tirelessly to repair critical systems. Despite their victory, the mood aboard the ship was somber. The crew had seen friends injured, equipment destroyed, and the limits of their endurance tested. But they had also witnessed something extraordinary: humanity standing toe-to-toe with an alien force far more advanced, and winning. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge, his uniform torn at the shoulder and streaked with soot. His face was calm, but his eyes betrayed the weight of what had just happened. He glanced around at his team, each person doing their part to keep the ship alive. Lieutenant Lisa Carter sat at her station, typing furiously to reroute power to failing systems. Chief Engineer Daniel Hughes was down in the engine room, working miracles to stabilize the reactor. Ensign Natalie Brooks monitored the ship's position, ensuring they weren't drifting into danger. "Status report," Ryan said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Lisa looked up from her console. "Shields are offline, sir. Life support is holding but barely. Hull integrity is at 40%. We've got multiple breaches on decks 3 and 5. Ryan nodded grimly. "Seal off those sections. Prioritize repairs for life support and propulsion." "Aye, Captain," Lisa replied, already sending commands to the engineering teams. As she worked, Ryan turned to Natalie. "What about the Zorathians? Any sign of them regrouping?" Natalie shook her head. "Their remaining ships fled after the quantum disruptor hit. They're retreating deeper into space. I don't think they'll be back anytime soon." Ryan allowed himself a small sigh of relief. For now, the immediate threat was gone. But he knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Zorathians were still out there, and this defeat would only make them angrier. Humanity had bought itself some time, but not much. Down in the engine room, Daniel wiped sweat from his brow as he worked alongside his team. The quantum disruptor's activation had pushed the ship's reactor to its absolute limit, and now it threatened to overload. Sparks flew from exposed wires as tools clanged against metal surfaces. One of the engineers, a young man named Alex, called out, "Chief, pressure's building in Sector 7. If we don't vent it, we could lose containment," Daniel cursed under his breath. "Get me a plasma conduit rerouted to Auxiliary Tank 4, and someone grab a patch kit. I need that leak sealed now." The engineers scrambled to follow his orders, their movements quick and precise. Daniel climbed onto a maintenance ladder, inspecting the reactor core directly. The hum of energy was deafening, and the heat radiating from the machinery made sweat pour down his face. He tapped his communicator. "Bridge, this is Hughes. We've got maybe 10 minutes before the reactor goes critical. I need all non-essential personnel evacuated immediately." Ryan's voice crackled through the comm. "Understood. Evacuating non-essential crew now. Keep me updated." Daniel nodded, though no one could see him. He focused on the task at hand, knowing that failure wasn't an option. The lives of everyone aboard depended on him keeping the reactor stable long enough for repairs to take hold. Meanwhile, back on the bridge, Lisa continued to analyze data from the battle. She replayed footage of the Zorathian fleet's movements, searching for any clues about their weaknesses or their next move. What she found troubled her. "Captain," she said, turning to Ryan, "their retreat seems organized. It's almost like they're regrouping for another attack." Ryan frowned. "You think they'll come back?" "It's possible," Lisa admitted. "But there's something else. Their communication logs mention reinforcements. A larger fleet might be on its way." Ryan clenched his jaw. Another wave of enemies was the last thing they needed. The Invincible was barely holding together as it was. If a second Zorathian fleet arrived, they wouldn't stand a chance. "We need to get word to Earth," Ryan said. "If reinforcements are coming, Command needs to know." Lisa hesitated. "Our long-range comms took heavy damage during the fight. We can send a signal, but it'll take hours to reach Earth, and there's no guarantee it'll get through." Gente nodded. "Do it anyway. Every second counts." As Lisa began transmitting the message, Ryan turned his attention to the evacuation efforts. Crew members who weren't essential to the ship's survival were being loaded onto escape pods, preparing to leave the Invincible behind if necessary. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Grant, the ship's medical officer. She approached Ryan, her face pale but determined. "Captain," she said, "I'm staying. You'll need my help treating the wounded." Ryan shook his head. "Negative, Lieutenant. Your skills will be wasted if you stay here. Get to one of the pods." Sarah crossed her arms. "With respect, sir, I didn't train for years to abandon my post when things got tough. Let me help." Ryan studied her for a moment, then relented. "Fine, but stay safe." "Yes, sir," Sarah replied, hurrying off to assist the injured. Despite the mounting challenges, the crew remained resolute. Each person understood the stakes. If the Invincible fell, humanity's best hope of defending itself against the Zorathians would vanish. That knowledge fueled their determination, driving them to push past exhaustion and fear. In the engine room, Daniel finally managed to stabilize the reactor, though it was far from fully repaired. He slumped against a wall, breathing heavily. "We're holding steady for now," he reported over the comm, "but we'll need a full overhaul if we want to keep flying." "Good work, Chief," Ryan replied. "Get your team to safety. We'll handle the rest." As the repairs continued, Ryan allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. He thought about the bravery of his crew, their willingness to risk everything to protect not just themselves, but the billions of people back on Earth. These men and women weren't soldiers by trade. They were scientists, engineers, navigators, and medics. Yet here they were, fighting a war none of them had asked for. A sudden jolt shook the ship, snapping Ryan out of his thoughts. Alarms blared across the bridge as Lisa shouted, "Captain, we've got incoming! Multiple contacts approaching! Fast!" Ryan's heart sank. "How many?" "Too many," Lisa replied grimly. "It's the reinforcements." The Zorathians had returned, and this time, they brought an entire armada with them. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the Invincible like predators circling prey. Kale Vor's voice boomed over the comm, filled with rage. "You will pay for your defiance, humans. Prepare to meet your end." Ryan tightened his grip on the railing in front of him. The odds were impossibly stacked against them, but surrender wasn't an option, not while there was still breath in their lungs. "Bring us about," Ryan ordered. "Target their lead ship. Fire everything we've got left." The Invincible lurched forward, its damaged engines straining to carry it into battle once more. Its weapons fired relentlessly, striking the Zorathian flagship with precision. Explosions rocked the alien vessel, causing it to list dangerously. But the rest of the fleet closed in, their plasma beams tearing through the human battleship's weakened defenses. "Shields are gone!" Lisa cried. Hull breaches on decks 2, 4, and 6. Ryan gritted his teeth. Seal them off. Divert all remaining power to weapons. The crew worked frantically, their movements frantic but purposeful. The ship groaned under the strain, its structure threatening to collapse. Fires broke out across the lower decks, forcing firefighting teams to scramble. Through it all, Ryan remained steadfast, issuing orders and rallying his crew. Then, just as it seemed the end was near, a miracle occurred. A new voice crackled over the comm, unfamiliar but unmistakably human. This is Admiral Laura Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet. Hold on. Invincible. Help is on the way. Ryan blinked in disbelief. Reinforcements? How is that even possible? Moments later, dozens of human ships emerged from hyperspace, flanking the Zorathians. The aliens, caught off guard, faltered in their attack. The tide of the battle shifted instantly as the combined forces of Earth unleashed a devastating barrage of missiles and particle beams. The Zorathian fleet, overwhelmed and outnumbered, began to retreat once more. On the bridge of the Invincible, the crew erupted into cheers. Tears streamed down Lisa's face as she hugged Natalie, both women overwhelmed with relief. Ryan leaned against the railing, letting out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. It was over. Against all odds, they had survived. Later, as the Invincible limped back toward Earth alongside the rest of the fleet, Ryan reflected on what had happened. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious, not because of superior technology or numbers, but because of courage, ingenuity, and sheer determination. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing up to even the greatest threats, and somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the surviving Zorathians whispered warnings to others: never underestimate humanity, because the next time aliens saw a human battleship, they would regret it instantly. The battle between the USS Invincible and the Zorathian fleet intensified as both sides exchanged fire. The alien ships, sleek and insectoid in design, darted through space with incredible speed, firing plasma beams that lit up the darkness. The humans aboard the Invincible worked tirelessly, their movements precise and coordinated. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen as he issued commands. Shields holding at 60%, Lieutenant Lisa Carter reported from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, analyzing data and relaying updates to the crew. Their weapons are powerful, but our shield array is absorbing most of the damage. Ryan nodded. Good. Keep monitoring their patterns. We need to find a weakness. The Invincible shuddered under another barrage of plasma fire. Sparks flew from a nearby console as the ship's systems strained to keep up with the assault. Chief Engineer Daniel Hughes rushed to fix the damaged panel, his face streaked with sweat. He muttered under his breath, "Come on, hold together." The experimental shield array was the only thing keeping them alive, and if it failed, the battle would be over. Ensign Natalie Brooks, seated at the navigation station, kept a close eye on the enemy ship's movements. She noticed something unusual about their formation. "Captain," she said, turning to Ryan, "they're clustering around one of their larger vessels. It might be their command ship." Ryan's brow furrowed. "Are they protecting it or using it as a weapon?" "I'm not sure yet," Natalie admitted. "But if we can disable it, we might disrupt their coordination." Lisa chimed in, her voice urgent. "I'm picking up increased energy readings from that ship. It could be charging some kind of weapon." Ryan didn't hesitate. "Target the command ship. Fire everything we've got." The Invincible unleashed another volley from its particle cannon, the beam slicing through space like a blade. It struck the Zorathian command ship, causing a massive explosion that sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Debris tumbled away into the void, and several smaller alien vessels were caught in the blast, their hulls torn apart. For a brief moment, the bridge erupted in cheers. The crew had struck a significant blow against the invaders, but Ryan silenced the celebration with a raised hand. "Stay focused," he ordered. They're not done yet. He was right. Despite the loss of their command ship, the Zorathians regrouped with alarming speed. Their remaining ships formed a tight formation, creating a wall of shields that deflected the Invincible's attacks. Vor, the Zorathian leader, reappeared on the view screen, his glowing red eyes filled with fury. "You dare challenge us?" he snarled. "You will pay for your insolence!" Before Ryan could respond, the aliens launched a new wave of attacks. This time their weapons seemed more intense, their aim more precise. The Invincible shook violently as its shields absorbed hit after hit. Warning alarms blared across the bridge, and the crew scrambled to stabilize the situation. Shields. "Down to 30%! Lisa shouted, her voice tinged with panic. "We can't take much more of this!" Ryan clenched his jaw. "Divert power from non-essential systems to the shields. We need to buy ourselves some time." Daniel nodded, already working to reroute energy. "I'll do what I can, Captain, but it's going to get dicey." As the battle raged on, Lisa continued to analyze the Zorathians' tactics. She discovered that their weapons relied heavily on synchronized targeting, meaning they needed to coordinate their attacks carefully. If the humans could disrupt that coordination, they might gain the upper hand. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice cutting through the chaos, "their weapons are linked. If we can disable one ship, it might throw off their entire formation." Ryan considered her suggestion. "Natalie, plot an intercept course. Take us straight through their lines." Natalie hesitated. "That's risky, sir. They'll have us surrounded." "I know," Ryan replied. "But if we don't act now, we're finished." "Do it." The young navigator swallowed hard but obeyed. She input the coordinates and activated the engines, sending the Invincible hurtling toward the heart of the Zorathian fleet. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden maneuver, struggled to adjust their fire. The human battleships slipped, past their defenses, narrowly avoiding destruction. Once inside the enemy formation, the Invincible unleashed a devastating salvo of missiles and particle beams. The concentrated attack overwhelmed one of the Zorathian ships, which exploded in a fiery burst. As Lisa predicted, the destruction of that vessel disrupted the alien synchronization. Their attacks became less coordinated, giving the humans a chance to counterattack. "We did it!" Lisa exclaimed, relief washing over her face. "Their targeting system is destabilized." Ryan allowed himself a small smile. "Good work, everyone. Now let's press our advantage." The Invincible turned sharply, positioning itself for another assault. Its weapons fired relentlessly, tearing through the disorganized Zorathian fleet. One by one, the alien ships fell, their once mighty armada reduced to smoldering wreckage. The tide of the battle had shifted, and the humans were finally gaining ground, but the victory came at a cost. The Invincible itself was heavily damaged, its hull scorched and battered. Alarms continued to sound throughout the ship, warning of critical failures in multiple systems. On the bridge, the crew worked tirelessly to keep the battleship operational, their faces etched with exhaustion. "Captain," Daniel called out, his voice strained, "the reactor is overheating. If we don't shut it down soon, it could go critical." Ryan frowned. "How long do we have?" "Minutes, maybe less," Daniel replied. "We need to vent excess energy, but it'll leave us vulnerable," Ryan thought quickly. "Do it. We'll deal with the consequences later." Daniel nodded and began the process of venting plasma from the reactor. Outside the ship, bright streams of energy shot out into space, briefly illuminating the battlefield. The Zorathians, sensing the humans' vulnerability, renewed their assault with renewed vigor. The Invincible rocked violently as another plasma beam struck its weakened shields. Sparks flew across the bridge and several consoles exploded, forcing crew members to dive for cover. Lisa shielded her face from the debris. Her glasses cracked but still perched on her nose. "We can't keep this up much longer," she said, her voice trembling. "Our shields are failing." Ryan gripped the railing in front of him, his knuckles white. He knew they were running out of options. The Zorathians were relentless, and even the bravest crew couldn't fight forever. But then, an idea struck. Him, one last gamble to turn the tide. "Lisa," he said, turning to her, "what's the status of the quantum disruptor?" Lisa's eyes widened. "It's operational, but using it could destroy us. The disruptor destabilizes matter at a subatomic level. It's unpredictable." "It's also our only chance," Ryan replied. "Prepare it for deployment." Lisa hesitated, then nodded. She began entering commands into her console, activating the experimental device hidden within the Invincible's hull. The quantum disruptor was humanity's most dangerous weapon, capable of obliterating anything in its path. But it required precise targeting, and firing it carried the risk of catastrophic failure. "Captain," Natalie said, pointing to the view screen, "there's a gas giant nearby. If we use its gravity well, we might be able to position ourselves behind the Zorathians and catch them off guard." Ryan considered the plan. It was risky, but it offered a slim chance of success. "Do it," he ordered. "Get us into position." The Invincible accelerated toward the gas giant, its engines straining under the effort. The Zorathians gave chase, firing relentlessly. For a terrifying moment, it seemed the plan would fail. Then, with a deafening roar, the battleship emerged from the gravity well directly behind the alien fleet. Caught completely off guard, the Zorathians scrambled to reorient their ships. Before they could react, Ryan gave the order. "Fire the quantum disruptor!" A brilliant flash of light engulfed the battlefield as the disruptor unleashed its payload. The beam struck the center of the Zorathian formation, destabilizing their ships and causing chain reactions that tore through their ranks. One by one, the alien vessels disintegrated into clouds of dust and debris. When the light faded, the battlefield was eerily quiet. The surviving Zorathian ships retreated, broadcasting messages of fear and defeat. Humanity had won. On the bridge of the Invincible, the crew erupted into cheers, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. Ryan allowed himself a rare smile. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. But as he looked around at the damaged ship and weary faces of his crew, he knew the fight wasn't truly over. There would be more battles to come, more threats to face. Still, for now, they had proven something important, not just to the Zorathians, but to themselves. Humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the message was clear: never mess with a human battleship. In the far reaches of space, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas, something unusual was about to happen. The Zorathians, a race of beings from another galaxy, had spent centuries exploring, conquering, and claiming planets as their own. They were not just explorers, they were invaders, taking what they wanted without asking. Their ships, sleek and menacing, glided silently through the void, carrying weapons capable of destroying entire worlds. To them, no species stood a chance against their power. Until now. The Zorathians were on a routine mission near the edge of the Milky Way, scanning for new planets to exploit. One of their scout ships detected a strange energy signal coming from a nearby star system. It wasn't natural, it was artificial, pulsing with a rhythm that suggested intelligence. Intrigued but confident in their dominance, they sent a small fleet to investigate. What they found would change everything. On the other side of the same star system, aboard the Earth Defense Force's flagship, USS Invincible, Captain Ryan Mitchell stood tall on the bridge. He was a man in his late 40s with sharp features and eyes that seemed to see every detail. His uniform was crisp, and his demeanor radiated authority. Beside him, Lieutenant Lisa Carter worked diligently at her station. She was younger than Ryan, with curly brown hair tied back neatly and glasses perched on her nose. Her fingers moved swiftly over the controls as she monitored the ship's systems. The crew of the Invincible was conducting tests on a new weapon system deep in uncharted space. This was humanity's most advanced battleship, equipped with experimental technology designed to defend Earth against any threat. The weapon they were testing was called the particle cannon, a device capable of firing concentrated beams of pure energy. So far, the tests had gone smoothly, but there was still much to learn. As Lisa analyzed data from the latest test, her screen suddenly lit up with a warning. "Captain," she said, her voice calm but urgent, "we've got incoming objects, multiple contacts, moving fast." Ryan turned to look at her. "How close?" he asked, his tone steady. "About 10 minutes out, sir," Lisa replied. "Their trajectory suggests they're heading straight for us." Ryan nodded. "Battle stations," he ordered, raising his voice so everyone on the bridge could hear. "Bring all systems online. Shields up, weapons ready." The crew sprang into action. Men and women rushed to their posts, their movements efficient and practiced. The hum of the ship's engines grew louder as it prepared for combat. On the large view screen at the front of the bridge, tiny dots appeared in the distance. They were too far away to make out clearly, but their speed was alarming. Lisa studied her console intently. "I'm reading energy signatures unlike anything we've encountered before," she said. "These aren't human ships." Ryan frowned. "Aliens?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "It looks that way, sir," Lisa confirmed. "They're hailing us." "Put it on screen," Ryan commanded. A moment later, the view screen flickered and an image appeared. It showed a creature, unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Its body was insect-like, with multiple limbs and glowing red eyes. Its mouth moved as it spoke, though its words were translated by the ship's computer into English. "You are inferior beings," the alien said, its voice cold and mechanical. "Surrender your vessel immediately or face annihilation." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one spoke. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "This is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the USS Invincible," he said, his voice firm. "We are peaceful explorers. We mean you no harm." The alien tilted its head slightly as if amused. "Your presence here is unauthorized," it replied. "You will comply or be destroyed." Ryan clenched his jaw. He didn't trust the aliens, but he also knew better than to provoke them prematurely. "We need time to discuss your demands," he said diplomatically. "You have 30 seconds," the alien responded curtly. Then the transmission ended, leaving the crew staring at the blank screen. "Well, that went well," muttered Ensign Natalie Brooks, a young navigator seated at her station. Her sarcasm earned a few nervous chuckles from the others, but the mood remained tense. Ryan turned to Lisa. "What do we know about them?" he asked. "They're faster than us, but I'm picking up weaknesses in their shield patterns." Lisa explained. "If we can hit them hard enough, we might penetrate their defenses." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "Good work. Keep analyzing." He glanced at Chief Engineer Daniel Hughes, who stood nearby. "How are the weapons holding up?" Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead. "The particle cannon is ready, but we haven't tested it in real combat yet," he admitted. "There's always a risk it could overload." "We'll take that risk if we have to," Ryan said. "For now, let's hope they don't call our bluff." Time ticked away painfully slowly. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, the aliens reappeared on the view screen. Their leader, identified as HFY, stared down at them with those unsettling red eyes. "Your time is up," HFY declared. "Prepare to die." Before Ryan could respond, the alien ships opened fire. Bright beams of plasma streaked toward the Invincible, lighting up the darkness of space. The humans braced themselves, expecting the worst. But instead of exploding, the battleship absorbed the attack. Its experimental shield array shimmered briefly before stabilizing again. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Ryan silenced them with a raised hand. "Stay focused," he ordered. "Return fire." The Invincible unleashed its particle cannon, sending a beam of pure energy hurtling toward the alien ships. The impact was devastating. Two of the smaller vessels exploded instantly, while a third listed badly, trailing smoke and debris. The crew erupted into cheers once more, but Ryan remained calm. He knew this was only the beginning. Kael'vor's expression shifted from arrogance to shock. Clearly, the Zorathians hadn't expected such resistance. They regrouped quickly, launching another wave of attacks. The battle had begun in earnest, and neither side was willing to back down. As the fight raged on, Ryan couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and fear. Pride in his crew, who had trained tirelessly for moments like this, and fear for what might come next. The Zorathians were powerful, and their numbers were growing. Still, Ryan refused to give up. Humanity had survived wars, plagues, and disasters throughout history. There was no way they would fall here, not today. Back at her station, Lisa continued to monitor the aliens' communications. She discovered that they had underestimated humanity based on outdated scans taken decades earlier. Now, panic spread among their ranks as they realized their mistake. For the first time in centuries, the Zorathians faced an opponent who wouldn't go down easily. Ryan watched the view screen, his mind racing with possibilities. The battle was far from over, but for now, the humans had proven they could hold their ground. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. The aliens would never forget the day they saw a human battleship and regretted everything instantly. The galaxy had changed forever. The defeat of the Krylos Collective's fleet was a monumental victory, but it came at a cost that no one could ignore. Entire planets had been devastated, their populations displaced or wiped out entirely. Billions of lives had been lost in the battle, and countless more were left to pick up the pieces of shattered worlds. Yet amidst the destruction there was also hope, a fragile but determined resolve to rebuild what had been broken. Daniel Carter walked through the ruins of a once thriving city on the planet Eridanus Prime. It had been one of the first targets of the Krylos attack, its skyline reduced to rubble and its streets deserted. Emergency crews worked tirelessly to clear debris and provide aid to survivors, but progress was slow. Supplies were limited, and the scale of the devastation overwhelmed even the most experienced rescue teams. Daniel felt a deep sense of guilt as he surveyed the damage. He had fought hard to expose the truth and unite the galaxy, but seeing the aftermath made him question whether it had been enough. Samantha Hughes joined him, her expression grim as she looked around. "This is just one planet," she said softly. "There are dozens more like it. We've won the battle, but the war isn't over." Daniel nodded, his jaw tightening. "We can't let this happen again. If we don't address the root causes, the divisions, the mistrust, it's only a matter of time before another threat rises to take their place." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Elena Torres, who approached them with a datapad in hand. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with determination. "The Council has approved an emergency relief fund," she announced. "Every species is contributing resources: food, medical supplies, engineers, and architects. It's not much, but it's a start." "That's good news," Samantha replied, though her tone suggested she wasn't convinced it would be enough. "But rebuilding will take years, maybe decades, and that's assuming the Krylos don't come back." "They won't, not anytime soon," Elena said firmly. "Their fleet was decimated, and their leadership structure has been severely weakened. But you're right. We need to focus on long-term solutions. That's why I'm proposing something new." She handed the datapad to Daniel, who scanned its contents quickly. It outlined a plan for a galactic reconstruction initiative, a massive, coordinated effort to rebuild affected planets and strengthen ties between species. The initiative included proposals for shared colonies, joint research projects, and cultural exchange programs designed to foster understanding and cooperation. At its core was the idea that unity wasn't just about fighting together, it was about building together. "It's ambitious," Daniel admitted after reading the proposal. "Do you think the council will go for it?" "They already have," Elena replied with a small smile. "It passed unanimously. Everyone understands that we can't afford to go back to the way things were." For the first time in months, Daniel allowed himself a flicker of optimism. The road ahead would still be difficult, but the fact that the council was willing to embrace such a bold vision gave him hope. He knew that implementing the initiative wouldn't be easy. Old prejudices and rivalries wouldn't disappear overnight, but it was a step in the right direction. Back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe faced her own challenges. Public opinion remained divided, with some citizens praising her leadership during the crisis and others demanding accountability for her earlier decisions. Nathan Drake continued to publish articles exposing flaws in Earth's response, keeping the pressure on Rachel's administration. Despite the criticism, Rachel refused to step down, insisting that her experience was needed to guide humanity through the recovery process. Vice President Alan Harper stood by her side, helping to navigate the political storm. Together, they worked to implement reforms aimed at increasing transparency and restoring trust. Earth opened its borders once again, welcoming delegations from across the galaxy to participate in reconstruction efforts. Factories churned out. Supplies and volunteers signed up in droves to assist in relief missions. Slowly but surely, Earth began to shed its reputation as a secretive and isolated power. Meanwhile, Laura Bennett found herself grappling with her role in the galactic community. Once a staunch critic of humanity, she had become an unlikely advocate for collaboration. Her transformation hadn't gone unnoticed, and many within the council questioned her motives. Some accused her of opportunism, while others praised her willingness to adapt. Laura ignored the whispers, focusing instead on repairing the relationships she had damaged. She reached out to Daniel privately, requesting a meeting aboard the council's station. When they sat down together, her demeanor was unusually humble. "I wanted to thank you," she began, surprising him. "If it weren't for your courage, I might never have seen how wrong I was." Daniel studied her carefully, searching for signs of insincerity. Finding none, he nodded. "You're not the only one who made mistakes. What matters now is what we do next." Laura agreed, her voice steady. "I want to help lead the reconstruction initiative. Not because I deserve redemption, but because I believe in it. The galaxy needs leaders who understand the importance of unity." Her words resonated with Daniel, and he found himself cautiously optimistic about her intentions. Perhaps Laura's change of heart was genuine, or perhaps it was politically motivated. Either way, her support could make a difference. As the months passed, the reconstruction initiative gained momentum. Shared colonies sprang up on planets ravaged by the Krylos attacks, bringing together species that had once viewed each other with suspicion. Scientists collaborated on groundbreaking technologies, sharing knowledge freely in ways that would have been unthinkable before the war. Cultural festivals celebrated diversity, offering glimpses into traditions and customs from across the stars. Elena became the face of the initiative, traveling from world to oversee its implementation. She worked tirelessly, often sacrificing sleep and personal comfort to ensure that every detail was addressed. Her dedication earned her widespread respect, and many began to see her as a symbol of the new era taking shape. Daniel and Samantha returned to Earth temporarily, where they were hailed as heroes. Crowds gathered to hear them speak, eager to learn about the lessons they had learned and the sacrifices that had been made. Though neither enjoyed the attention, they recognized the opportunity to inspire others. They spoke passionately about the importance of unity, emphasizing that the galaxy's strength lay in its diversity. "We're stronger when we work together," Daniel told a packed auditorium. "The Krylos Collective tried to divide us, but they underestimated what we're capable of when we stand united. Let's prove them wrong, not just today, but every day moving forward. His words struck a chord, igniting a renewed sense of purpose among those who heard them. People began volunteering in greater numbers, donating resources, and participating in interstellar exchange programs. Even skeptics found themselves swayed by the tangible results of cooperation. But not everyone embraced the changes. Fringe groups emerged, railing against the new order and calling for a return to isolationism. Some humans argued that Earth should focus on its own recovery rather than helping alien species. Others claimed that the Reconstruction Initiative was a ploy to strip Earth of its independence. These voices grew louder as economic hardships mounted, fueling protests and acts of vandalism. Rachel Monroe faced mounting pressure to address these dissenters, but she refused to bow to fear-mongering. Instead, she doubled down on her commitment to the initiative, highlighting its successes and urging patience. "Rebuilding takes time," she reminded the public during a televised address. "But if we give up now, we risk losing everything we've worked so hard to achieve." Her steadfastness earned her grudging respect, even from her critics. Over time, opposition to the initiative began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of pride in humanity's contributions to the galactic effort. As the first anniversary of the Krylos defeat approached, the Council organized a ceremony to honor those who had fallen and celebrate the progress that had been made. Representatives from every species gathered aboard the orbital station, now fully restored to its former glory. The event was marked by speeches, music, and displays of art created by survivors of the conflict. Daniel stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. His heart swelled with emotion as he realized how far they had come. "A year ago, we were divided, suspicious of one another, unwilling to trust," he began. "Today we stand together, united not just by our shared history, but by our shared future. The road ahead will still have challenges, but I believe in our ability to overcome them, because we are more than the sum of our differences. We are one galaxy." The audience erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the chamber. For the first time in a long time, the galaxy felt whole. Yet as the celebrations continued, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that the Krylos Collective's shadow still loomed large. Reports trickled in of scattered remnants of their forces regrouping in distant sectors of space. Intelligence agencies warned that the Collective's ideology, its belief in domination and control, had taken root in certain fringe groups. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the seeds of conflict remained. Samantha joined him later that evening, standing beside him as they gazed.